That's the music from A Secret Garden, and it's where I've lived my life. And in the secret garden are my life's most precious possessions, and those are memories. Memories of years of surfing, growing up in Waikiki of old, in the shadow of Duke Honolulu. Off in the distance, I can see the sun setting. And I'm so pleased to have traveled through time with my brothers and sisters of the waves. Patty, thank you. I love you. In the secret garden are special memories that Joey and Paul and I share of the Waikiki of old. Two big hotels in the days of our youth, the Moana and the Surf Rider. Hawaiian coral canoes on the beach, which you cannot find now because of the value of coral wood. The Waikiki of old crossed the street from the old Outrigger Canoe Club was a swamp or a marsh with percolating fresh water from the artesian wells. Hence the name Y, water, Kiki, spouting waters. This is the Waikiki we grew up in. There were two hotels. The venerable old Moana Hotel built in 1901 and the Grand Dame of Waikiki, the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. We oftentimes would ride the waves with just a few of us out. South swells would come up from the southern hemisphere, and of course we didn't know when or why they were coming, but we'd wake up in the mornings and there'd be a mist in the air from the huge surf, and we'd ride the waves oftentimes by ourselves. These are the blessings of the time I've traveled through. These are the blessings that I will take with me to my last ride. Speaking about rides, I do want to tell you about the D ride. Surfers all remember their ride. You can ask any surfer, ask Paul, ask Joey, ask them all. I remember such and such a day at such and such a spot in this ride, and they'll tell you in great detail about taking off on that wave and having their heart rush into their head and take a deep breath as they plunge to the bottom, and they'll tell you about the turn in the ride. But a surfer will never tell you a story about someone else's ride. Well, I'd like to tell you a story about someone else's ride. Please bear with me. It's fantasized because obviously I wasn't there, but I heard a lot about it. It was early in the morning, in early May of 1917. There were a group of heroic Hawaiians standing on the beach. This was the day when they were still pure Hawaiians. Their koko, their blood, coursed through their veins. They were true Hawaiians. This was a special morning, and the early morning sun, raising the east, spilled its golden rays onto the beach of Waikiki, where they were standing. But this was a morning like no other. Out on the horizon, there was a deep rumble, like a train traveling across the far expanse of ocean. In the air, there was a mist, a smoky mist, a smoky white mist. It was a sea spray, because out in the ocean, breaking out past the first break in Waikiki, were the 100-year swell, the swell of the century, as they call it. A swell you see maybe once in a lifetime. There's one Hawaiian gentleman standing there with his friends. He heard, deep in his soul and heart, the voice of the gods who ruled away. And he heard them saying, come, come, come challenge me. See if you can ride me. And he picked up his board, and with his friends, he started his way out. His board's name was Papa Nui, big board. He went out through canoe surf and paddled out over the waves to first break. And then he took a left turn, and with his friends, started heading out to what he knew by its old Hawaiian name, Kalehoavehi. Kalehoavehi was a big wave spot in Waikiki. It broke outside Diamond Head, and on a big day, it broke in what they call bluebirds, because it's where the near shore aqua waters turned into the deep blue waters. This man, with his friends, paddled into the lineup. And there was a query that oftentimes surfers are confronted with, I think subconsciously. Is it better when you're surfing? I'd love to hear from you guys on this. Is it better to catch a lot of good waves? Or is it better to wait outside and catch one or two of the best waves? Well, I learned from surfing in the shadow of this man, it's better to wait and catch the best waves. There's no right answer. That attitude served me well when surfing in Puerto Rico in 1968. But this day was the 100-year swell, and his friends were catching waves on the inside. And this man sat outside, patiently waiting. We like to think we have 5 senses. We have way more senses than 5. And sometimes, when you do something enough, you just have a deep in your soul, an intuition about it. And this man didn't see, didn't know, but he felt on the horizon was the swell of the day. Out at Kalehoavehi, now called Castle Surf, he started paddling out to meet the wave. His friends would get caught inside. As the wave approached, he knew this was the wave of the century. And he sat up and swung Papa Nui down, facing towards the shore. As Paul said, over a mile away on the beach was the Outrigger Canoe Club in the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. With big, hairy strokes, this man had massive hands. We were eventually making an Olympic gold medalist swimmer. The large swish of him paddling into the wave and the heavy breathing as Papa Nui lifted up into the wave. Soon gravity overtook the board being pulled up the face of the wave, and he started falling down the face of the wave. Papa Nui with an old board, a big board, that you did not stand and turn it. You turned it laying down. So he turned it and faced it, pointing on a line directly for the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. And he started flying across this wave, maybe 15, 18 feet. And he surfed by outside Publix. And then he surfed by a sandbar that breaks only when the waves are big, a surf called Kumas. Then he surfed by Queens, and he got to the middle of the bay to a break called Canoes, where the tourists would go out in canoes. And the wave crashed on all sides of him. But he was confident. He was on Papa Nui. And though it rattled him, he rode the wave into the beach. This legendary wave washed up the beach, and was, as with all waves, it disappeared. Disappeared into memory, and it disappeared into history. The man stepped off the board, this tall, handsome Hawaiian. His name was Duke Honolulu. And that's the story of the ride. How fortunate I was to grow up in the shadow of this man and surfed through the 60s, a magic time, with Paul and Joey and Mr. Pipeline, the first one, Jerry. Not as long as you, Butch Van Arsdale. I will tell you that my greatest blessing, as is yours, is a time we're traveling through in our lives. Think about it. Think what we have seen. When I was young, we had a car. It had something called, kids don't know what it is, it's called a clutch. It had these little things on the window, and you go like this and it would roll the window up. My God, you'd have to roll up the window manually. Look at cars now. What's coming in the future is you want a new car. There'll be cars on the road, and you'll summon a car on your iPhone, and you'll get in the car, and the AI will be voice command, and you'll say, take me to where you want to go. And the car will take you. And you've got a bill for it. Give it the money, your credit card. There's no driver. And there'll be no accidents. Because AI and the computers don't get distracted, and they don't drive impaired. What magic. We're going to see, and possibly I will see, but certainly younger people will see, we're going to see people on Mars. Do you remember Flash Gordon? In the comic books? My God, this guy's going into space. Can't do that. That's impossible. Well, there's people living there now. Elon Musk will go to Mars. I would say our children's children will have an opportunity to possibly live on Mars. How incredible is it, the time we're traveling through? 100, 150 years ago, you lived in a spot, you'd be lucky if you get 10 miles from that spot. Now, at the end of the month, I'm going to my homeland in Madeira, Portugal, in a matter of several hours of plane flying. Years ago, it was a month of sailing in a ship. What magic, what wonders we have seen in our life. And in closing, I'd like to say, the best is yet to come. Thank you so much for this award.